just turned 26 years old, and to celebrate, I purchased 26 Teslas, one of which is a Tesla Cybertruck that I'm going to be giving away in this post right here. All you have to do to win one of these Teslas is like this post and leave a comment tagging 2 of your friends. Make sure you're following me so I can DM you if you win. I just turned 26.
So many of you guys must have seen this post. I mean, wow, look at the views and see how many of you will be running like rats to comment here to win that. Guys, understand, even if you win the rat race, you still are a rat. Oh man, dark sarcasm here. I am donating diamonds here. My one video's worth, if you can watch with all your full attention, is 8.1 billion Kuwaiti dinars, which could be yours. And here you are into these Teslas. I am not against wealth, but unless you know who you really are, how can you even utilize that wealth? You will be wasting it without even knowing. According to Mahatma Buddha, so long as a man has only partial knowledge, he regards himself as a repository of great wisdom. But as he begins to learn the second half of the knowledge he has to acquire, he regards himself as a great fool. In my previous birth, when I was Osho, Acharya Rajneesh, my teachings have had an impact on Western New Age thought, and their popularity reportedly increased between the time of my death and 2005. Although I was unaware of the second half of the knowledge at that time, and now when I know, I was half right at that time, so now I am correcting myself and self-improving. As I mentioned earlier, the difference between me and Osho, aka my previous form, is that he has gone through different religious, non-religious texts and people, like he was into too much reading about them. But I, on the other hand, I am just into Bhagavad-Gita, and I have gone through multiple sources of Bhagavad-Gita, but mainly with my own personal experiences. Also, I am into listening, and that's how I came across Osho, because he commented on Bhagavad-Gita as well. Otherwise, I have no interest in him. So we are alike but different together. When I was Osho, I failed to analyze that Bhagavad-Gita is more than enough and nothing is required to teach after this knowledge. Now, according to me, Bhagavad-Gita is the prime source and everything came from it. And it must be taught before doing anything else in life. Consider it to be a master key to open any locks, meaning a solution to any of your problems, all religious and even anti-religious. Even what Osho said and did in his life back in the 90s, 70s is what he explained about Bhagavad Gita. Now, from Bhagavad Gita, I can relate to other religions and anti-religions, even atheism. But it's not true vice versa for me. Consider me like modern Meera, who was just into Krishna all the time, but I am into Bhagavad Gita, and according to me, Bhagavad Gita is the real definition of Krishna, which is fixed. The rest of Krishna's life is just a play, which can be modified. Decisions are being given. So I'm continuing with Bhagavad Gita now. Arjuna is giving judgments and saying, my mind is filled with ignorance. There is no consistency between these two things. Arjuna's mind is filled with ignorance, so he should have nothing to say. It is enough that my mind is filled with ignorance. Show me the way. I don't know what is right, what is wrong. No, but at the same time he says, this is right and this is wrong. No matter how much our minds tell us that it is filled with ignorance, our ego is not ready to accept it. Ego says, I am filled with more ignorance. I know what is dharma righteous and what is adharma unrighteous. Secondly, it is worth noting that wherever ego exists, it always chooses extremes. Extreme is the choice. Chooses one extreme over the other. Ego never stands in the middle, cannot stand. Because right in the middle is the death of ego. So Arjuna says it is better to be a beggar than to be an emperor. Arjuna chooses the last polarities, which is possible, the last two. He says it is better to be a beggar than to be an emperor. Arjuna can either be an emperor or a beggar, nowhere in between. Either number one at that end or number one at this end, but there can be only number one. It's like taking a little care. Bernard Shaw once said that even if I get to heaven and have to be number two, I would refuse. I would rather live in hell, but number one has to be there, should be number one. I would even like hell. Even if I become number two, I don't want heaven. What fun it will be in that heaven in which number one has to become number two. It can be fun even in hell if only I am number one there. So see, therefore it is not surprising if all the people who were number one come together in hell. So the choice will be hell, bro. The road to hell is very close from Delhi. So you leave via Delhi or go to hell directly, would it matter? There is not even a gap in between. If the one who is suffering for being number one has to give up being an emperor, then the immediate other option is to be a number one beggar. You know Govinda's movie All Number One, so you can relate. It is important to look at this option also, because only the ego chooses this option. This option, the option of extreme, is always chosen by the ego, because ego does not care whether one becomes an emperor or a beggar. The only thing that matters is number one. Arjuna is saying that it is better that I become a beggar and beg on the streets. On the surface, it appears that he is speaking with great humility. He is talking about giving up being an emperor and begging, but there is not much difference from inside. The matter inside is the same. The overall conclusion inside is the same. The matter of being at the extreme is the desire of the ego. The desire to stand on the last pole, on the peak, is the desire of ego. Either this corner or that corner. The middle is not for ego. The name of Buddha's psychology is Madhya Marga, the middle way. And when someone asked Buddha, why do you call your path Majjhim Nikya, the middle path? So Buddha said only he who stands exactly in the middle of two extremes can be free from ego. Otherwise, he cannot be free. A small incident is associated with the life of Buddha. Buddha has come to a village. The emperor wanted to be initiated. So that emperor went to Buddha and said to give initiation to him too. Buddha's monk said in Buddha's ear, give it to him carefully, because what we have heard about this emperor is exactly the opposite. This man has never even walked down from the chariot barefoot. This man is immersed in all the means of enjoyment, whatever is possible in his palace. When he climbs his stairs, he keeps naked women standing on the side of the stairs so he can use women instead of the railing, placing his hands on their shoulders to climb up. Just to be careful with this. Apart from alcohol and women, nothing has ever come in his life. But today he has suddenly come to take the vow of becoming a monk and renunciant of penance. This man should not cheat in the middle. So how can he become a monk and a renunciant of penance? Buddha said, as far as I know, men, this man will not betray. He is fed up with one extreme, now going to other extreme. Tired of one peak, now going to other peak. But the monk said, we have doubts, because till yesterday he was completely different. Buddha said, I do not doubt. Such people often make choices in extreme. Don't be afraid. The monk said, we do not think that he will be able to beg, will be able to walk barefoot on the road, will be able to tolerate sunlight and shade. We cannot see this happen to him. Buddha said he will be able to bear more than you. They all laughed. Like, more than us? They